All right, hello wine drinking people, and having just finished our annual Grange tasting, I thought it only fitting to come out with this offering for you, our wine drinking people. One of the best prices we've ever offered on Penfolds Grange and Magnum. This is one of the world's collectible wines. Penfolds Grange is recognized the world over as one of the top wines. Definitely the most iconic wine from Australia. But this is a wine that you will find anywhere where fine wine is sold, and it's considered one of the world's great collectibles. When you look at the new release of Grange, the 2008, which scored 100 points, it's upwards of $600 a bottle anywhere you can find it on the internet. We're offering you Magnums of this 2003. All right, it didn't score 100 points. We got 94 points on the Wine Spectator. 2003 was a hot year all over the world and produced wines that are a little more forward and a little more drinkable, but this iconic wine in Magnum, you should be able to keep 20 years or more in your cellar. We had another warm vintage 1981 on the table at our Penfolds Grange event. It was absolutely spectacular, killer. And one of the things I love about old Shiraz, it is like velvet on your tongue. The tan is so soft and smooth as it ages. And Grange is one of these balanced style of Australian wines where a lot of people look at Australia and say these wines will not age. They're overly alcoholic. Well, one of the things I learned from our friend Dylan Proctor at our Grange event this year was Penfolds never made a wine over 14.3% alcohol. Well, it says 14.5 on the label, but I guess they always average on the high side. And this is a more elegant, a more refined style of Shiraz. Something you find a la the Northern Rhone. You know, they've been making Grange since the 50s. The great Max Schubert created the first wine, 1951 Grange, and, well, it didn't meet with immediate fanfare. As a matter of fact, the folks at Penfolds said, Max, you need to stop making this. And 1957 through 59 were known as the dark years, or the years where, he made it without the owners of Penfolds knowing he was making it, because he was convinced he was onto something here, and he was producing one of the great wines, potentially the greatest wine in Australia, one of the great wines made in the world. And, just a few years later, it won a competition in London in a blind tasting. And the rest is history. Penfolds Grange, like I said, considered one of the iconic wines in Australia, but you can find it everywhere. In Magnum, it's very hard to find. You don't see Grange and Magnum. There's never been more than 5,000 cases produced of Grange. 5,000, a couple hundred maybe. Well, according to the latest data that we've just received at this last event, Dylan Proctor was a wealth of information, and there's only been 5 winemakers that have made this wine. We've had 2 of the last ones, John Duval and Peter Gago, in to host our event. Over the course of the last decade or so, we released RWT, one of the iconic wines to this market. And like I said, we've had every release of Grange for the last 15 years at least on release. And I can say it's one of the greatest wines, one of the tastings that I look forward to, but even more so, being able to sell these Magnums at $495. They won't last long, folks. Check it out. And also, I've included on this email our wrap-up, the review of our Penfolds Grange tasting, and everything else we've got from Penfolds in the store. I'm your host, Andrew Lamposoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying, remember, always drink the good stuff first.